Hi, my name is Sebastian from Xbox-Xtra, and today in this video tutorial I'm going to show you how to install the new Team Executor's glitch chip CR4 XL. Pay attention and enjoy. Alright, so just to show you that at this moment the Xbox 360 that I'm working on is on the latest dashboard. I'm going to scroll to System, Console Settings, and then System Info. You see it's a 17150, so this is the latest dashboard at this moment. So now that we have the motherboard out of the cage, we're gonna clean and prep everything on it, the solder points. First thing, you see the cooler fan. I'm gonna remove the cooler fan just by unplugging this little plug. Pull it up slightly, like gently, until it pops. Then flip the motherboard around and you'll see the X clamp. I'm using the X clamp removal tool, and you can do it really within a few seconds with this tool. If you're going to use a screwdriver for this, then it's probably a bad idea, because you can ruin your board by ripping off a capacitor or resistor or whatever. So just try to get one of these to make it all safe. Flip the motherboard around again, and then we can take off the cooler fan. And you'll see the old paste, the cooling paste. We're going to remove this with isopropyl 91% alcohol. You can also use other alcohol percentages, but I have the 91%. Doesn't make that big a difference. I'm going to put the alcohol on a few Q-tips, and then I'm going to remove it until it's clean. Okay, perfect. This is nice and clean, smooth. So what we're going to do now, we're going to look at the Nand points. What we're going to need the Nand points for, we're going to have to solder to this. We're going to attach some wires so we can read the Nand. Later on we need the Nand. To make a hacked image, we need the CPU key and the Nand to create a hacked image so you can run homebrew and stuff. So these are the Nand points. What I'm going to do to prepare them, it's not really necessary to do this, but it makes it a little bit more easier. I'm going to scratch them off just to make the solder, the new solder that I'm going to put on, will make the solder attach more easily. So once again, it's not really necessary, but it makes it a little bit more easy. I use a fiberglass scratch pen and I'm cleaning it right now with some alcohol. And I will be doing this for all the points that I'm going to solder to. So the same we do with the DB2G3 point, where the green wire is going to be soldered to. Once done, you can flip over the motherboard and go to the back of the motherboard. And on this side we're only going to be soldering two wires, the yellow and the blue. Once again, forgive me, my camera work is not the best. I'm trying to get this as best in the picture as I can, the points. So this row on the bottom, the second of the left, is the yellow wire. The yellow wire is going to come here. If you scratch a little bit of the other points, is no problem. And the blue wire we're going to solder to C5R11. This is the one on the right, as you can see here. Sometimes this has already a little solder on it. Sometimes you can see the copper of the motherboard. Just scratch it and clean it. So the next step in pre-tinning the solder points is using flux. Flux is absolutely necessary. And if you do use flux, don't be cheap on it, use enough flux. I can't stress it enough, you need to use flux, because otherwise you'll risk that you burn pads easier or points, even the resistors that you see on the right. And besides that, the flux will make you have an easier flow of the solder, and you get better connections, way more solid. Alright, so now we're gonna actually solder the points, pre-tin them. The flux is already on it. I'm using my soldering iron on the point, preheating it up a little, and then adding the solder to the point and my iron at the same time. And as you can see, the flux is helping me to get a nice flow. On the right hand, on the top side of the screen, you can see the colors of the Nand points, where we're going to solder the wires later that connect the Nand X to the PC, so we can read the Nand. As you can see, we have black, brown, red, orange and yellow. Doing those now. And we have the green and the blue one. If for some reason you don't get nice round shiny balls of solder, sounds a little weird, shiny balls, but then probably you don't have enough flux on it, so you can just add some flux and redo the points, just touch them slightly. And because I'm already here with my flux, I'm just gonna flux this point that we're gonna be using the red wire for the power to the Cool Runner 4 later on. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna clean up again. You don't actually have to do it. A lot of people just leave it like that, and when they solder the wires to it, they just use the same flux. I always like to clean it up and use fresh flux, but that's up to you. So basically with these little points you don't actually have to add extra solder. If you put a little bit on your iron and just tap it, it will be okay. You'll be fine. As you can see here, I'm also only tapping it a little bit. With the solder already on my iron, it's good. So I'm not adding extra solder. So great. Those are pre-tinned. I'm gonna clean again. Just forgot the previous point to clean, but I'll do it in a second. Just clean this first. So now we're going to have a close-up from the pre-tinned points. Later on we're going to use the wires, the correct colors to the correct points. And so we're going to flux it up again and then solder them to these points. This is the 5-volt, the red wire to the CR4. And then the point where the green wire is going, DB2G3. The back side of the motherboard. For the yellow and the blue wire. For this point you don't really see the difference. Picture you can see where it comes. For the blue wire you really see a little ball of solder. Once again, it will make it a little bit more easy if it's pre-tinned. It's not impossible without pre-tinning it, but if you're a beginner, it's always handy to pre-tin these points. Okay, so once again we fluxed up the points with new flux, and now we're going to solder the Nand X wires to the correct points. As you can see, I put some lag extensions to the wires that I soldered underneath the heat shrink. Makes it more easy to attach the wires, solder the wires to the board. First doing the green one, now I'm putting the blue, heating up the point and then swipe it over the lag. Without the legs, without the preparation of these wires, you can also of course use the same technique with just the wires exactly to the same points. I'm gonna do the black wire, after that the brown wire. It doesn't really matter in which order you solder them. It's important that at the end you have soldered the correct colors to the correct points. And once in a while you have to clean your tip of your soldering iron. You can see that the flux is helping me to get solid connections. Okay, so now we're going to connect the Nand reader to the PC. As you can see, I'm plugging in the power and then connecting the Nand reader. In JRunner program, if you press F2, you can see if you have a good flash configuration or not. At this moment I'm getting a cannot continue error. Well, that can mean a few things. First of all, maybe your soldering is poor, so you have to recheck your soldering that it's not bridging or something. It can also mean that you forgot to plug your power cable. Possible, but in my case it was not the case because I did plug it already. What I needed to do is unplug everything, first the power cable, and then connect my Nand to the PC. And as you can see, I already tried it again. I'm going to disconnect the Nand X. You see the logo of the Nand X disappearing and appearing again, and then you see that I get a good flash configuration. So then now it's time to read the NAND. We have to have at least 2 NAND dumps, and we do that by pressing read NAND in JRunner. As you can see, the progress bar is starting to progress. When it's completed, it will have dumped the first NAND. Here you can change the number of reads, but I just leave it on 2. You can see here that the USB that we connected is a Nand X reader, the logo, and if you have a JR programmer, it will also appear there. Here's the information where it's saving. It's in the output folder of the JRunner core pack. And we're gonna speed up the progress a little bit. Once it's done, it will automatically start the second dump. You can see that it's taking like 2 minutes 15 seconds to dump one NAND. So JRunner is now busy with the second NAND dump. Once this is complete, the JRunner program will automatically compare the NANDs to see if they are the same. If they're not the same, you don't continue, you just read the NAND again. But in my case, it's a good sign, NANDs are the same, so I can continue. When this is done, when it's done reading, you disconnect the power cable from the motherboard and also the NAND reader or JR programmer, whichever you use. And then it's important that you save the original NAND dumps that you just made in a different location. At this moment it's still in the output folder of JRunner core pack. As you can see here, I'm just gonna copy and paste this into another folder. So once that's done, you're gonna leave the NAND dumps that you just made in the output folder of JRunner, and you leave JRunner program, you leave it open. We're gonna use them later on. Okay, what I'm doing now is I'm putting the CR4, I'm going to pre-tin it, I'm putting it a little bit higher so it's easy for me to tin it. I'm gonna scratch the points. We're gonna use the 5V, the ground, C, D and E points. So I'm gonna scratch it up a little bit, clean it, flux it and tin it. So for this install on the Trinity motherboard, we only need 5 wires that we have to connect to the CR4 and to the motherboard. So that's the blue, the yellow, the green, the black one and the red one. And to make it a little bit more nicer and do not have too much exposed wire, I'm gonna cut the ends of the wires. For example, the blue wire, later on when I've soldered it to the CR4, I still need to cut it a little bit more to fit to the motherboard. So I just do one side and the other one I just leave as it is. For now I'm cutting off the red a little bit. Then one end of the black, this is the end that I'm going to solder to the CR4. The other end is not that important that it's so short because I'm going to solder it to the AV port to ground it. So I'm just going to take off a little bit, but it can be a little bit longer. So now we're gonna solder the wires to the CR4. They're fluxed again, as you can see, and I'm using the same method as before. Heating up the point and put your wire into it at the moment it's heated. Don't leave it too long. I'm just pre-tinning also the end of the wire a little, so it makes it easier for the flow. Then the yellow wire goes on the C point. I could have used a little bit more solder here to make it a more solid connection, but it's still good. It's the same for the D point. Also could have used a little bit more solder here. As you can see, when I pre-tint I had a little bit more solder on E, and you see the difference. It's nice and round. So by preparing the CR4, I also removed the yellow sticker that is on top of the dip switches, and switching the switch from FAT to Slim, because we're working on a Slim Trinity. As you know, the CR4 can also be used on a FAT Xbox, but as you can see, I've put it to the Slim just to make sure I don't forget. The CR4 XL has default settings to be set on 3 and 4 dip switches on. It's supposed to work good with that. Later on we can always change the dip switches. It doesn't mean that because I'm putting a 3 and 4 on right now that it will work right away. We're just gonna have to find out. But in case I forget, I'm already putting them on 3 and 4. So after placing the CR4 on the motherboard, I'm gonna put the blue and the yellow wire to the back of the motherboard through this hole. Great, that worked out. Now I'm gonna do the green wire. I'm gonna lead it to its point so I can see how much I have to cut off. So it's gonna go right there. And after I have cut it, then I need to strip the wire and tin the point a little, the wire. And after that we can solder the wire to the point. As you can see, the black wire goes to the AV port up. I'll first solder this one. I forgot to pre-tin this, by the way, in the beginning. You can do it, but it's not a big problem if you forget. Just gonna pre-tin and flux it. So I fluxed it already. Pre-tin this point on the AV port, and then I'm gonna solder the black wire, the ground wire, to the AV port. Heat it up and then add the solder, and that's enough. As always, I clean it again. There's a little spike on the back, so I'm gonna retouch it with my soldering iron, and then it's gone. Now I've cut and trimmed the green wire. I fluxed the point. I'm gonna put a little bit solder on my point, my soldering iron. I'm gonna thin the end of this wire, because again, it's gonna make it easier to connect to the point. It's a little bit too long, so I'm gonna cut it off, trim it again. Better. And with these points, also with yellow and with the blue wire, you just dab it quick, like tap it quick on it, and when it's connected, it's connected. So it's connected. So then you stop. So we've reached the point that we're gonna put back the cooler and the cooler fan, and I'm putting Arctic Silver 5 cooling paste on the processor. To be honest, this is a little bit too much. You can do less. And what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna spread it out until everything is covered, and then I'm gonna put back the cooler. Then it's time to put back the X clamp. Just make sure that the X clamp is connected in a proper way, that the little arms are connected all the way around the bolts. Again, I'm using the X clamp removal tool to put it back. And when I'm done with this, I'm gonna check if they're connected well. This one is not completely connected well to the motherboard, so I'm just gonna use the X clamp again, the removal tool, and now it's good. So you've probably been asking yourself why I didn't solder the red wire yet, but that's because I don't want any power to the CR4 yet, because I'm gonna test the Xbox before I continue the reset glitch hack. At this moment I haven't changed anything to the Nand, I just read it twice, so it should boot. If there's anything that I did wrong, like a solder point or something, and it's not booting, I at least know that I got still the original Nand on it, and I can find my problem quicker than if I already continue everything. So I'm going to put back everything, also the drive and stuff. I mean, you don't have to do this again if you're confident with your soldering and stuff, but just to show you how you make it more easy for yourself if there is any problem with it. So putting back everything, and I'm gonna boot to see if the Xbox is still working. So the moment of truth, and it still boots. That's good. So that means that till now I've done everything correct and I didn't ruin the Xbox. Taking it out of the cage again, I'm gonna solder the red wire to the motherboard. Just find out that I still find this end of the wire a little bit too long, so I'm gonna trim it a little. I should have done that with the yellow wire too, but it's not that big problem. This time I'm gonna use something to hold the red wire with, because it's more easy to put it on the point and to keep it on its place. This point takes a little bit more soldering to it before it connects. It's not that easy as the green or the yellow wire. If you're using this tool, just be very careful, because there are capacitors and resistors next to the point, that you're not clumsy and you rip one of those pads, I mean those resistors of capacitors off. Now we're going to connect everything again to the PC to write the ECC file, and this is what we need to make it boot to Excel. Once we have done this, we can get the CPU key, and with the CPU key we can build a new image. Let me connect it to the PC. The JRunner, the program, is still open. And it looks like this. So I connect the Nand X, you see the logo appear. Not disappear, but appear. Just pressing F2 again to check if everything is connected well. Click CR4, because there's already on the glitch too, but don't forget to click the box CR4. And if you can see in the source file, you see that it's non-dump 1. So this is my non-dump 1. It's still in there, I haven't changed nothing. And now I'm going to click Create ECC. JRunner is not responding for the moment, but normally it goes very quick. So this is it, it's created, and now I'm going to write it to the Nand. So just press write ECC, and again the progress is going. Done. It goes pretty quick. So now you have loaded and written the ECC file to your Xbox Nand. After this, you unplug the power and the Nand X. Now we're going to try to boot Excel to get the CPU key. To make it more easy, I'm connecting an Ethernet cable, and it's connected to my router. So I'm on the same network, and it's going to make it easier to get the CPU key. You can also make a picture of it or write it down, the CPU key, when you have it. You can see that the red light is on, so it has power. So the CR4 is powered at the moment. And I still have the dip switches 3 and 4 on. Turning on the Xbox, I'm using a remote control for it. and you see the green light flashing. It's the debug light. It means that it's glitching. But as you can see, it's glitching 4 times, and so on and so on. Even for XL, this should boot in 1 or 2 times. So probably I'm not on the right dip switch. So what I'm gonna try after I shut it down, I'm gonna try to change the dip switch and see if that makes any improvement. So after 12 glitches, I decided to shut it down. So changing the dip switch now to only 3 on. I just turned 4 off. I'm gonna boot again. This is 1 glitch, 2 glitches, and then XL loads. And this is what you get when you connect it to a TV or a monitor, the blue screen. And here you will find your CPU key. Make a picture of it, or if you're connected to the same network as your PC, you can press scan IP. This is what I'm going to do right now, scan IP. And then you see that it automatically loads the CPU key in this field here. If you don't have it connected to your same network, you can also write it down in that box. You don't really need to do this. I always like to make a copy of the CPU key just in case. So once you've got your CPU key, you can turn off your Xbox and disconnect everything. And we're going to go back to the PC, creating and writing the XL Nand, so the hacked image. Connecting the Nand X again, the reader. Right, so back in JRunner, you can make a little snapshot of this just in case you might need support. Let's hope not after watching this tutorial. But if you go to a website and you want support because something went wrong, or you maybe make a mistake with soldering, they're going to ask you for information. So if you have everything in order, it's a lot easier to get help. So they're going to ask for pictures of your install, all these necessary info about JRunner, the log files and stuff. But once again, let's hope you don't need that. As you can see, my Nand X is my reader is not connected yet. For creating a XL image, you don't have to have it connected. I'm gonna select the dashboard version, the latest one at this moment, and everything is still in the correct settings. The dash launch and launch ini, you can select it or not select it, but that's up to you. That's for another tutorial. And then we just press create XL image, and it's gonna make the hacked image for you. And there it's done. So now I'm gonna connect my Nand X. It's recognized. I see the logo. Checking in the source, that is the update flash bin. And then I'm gonna write to the Nand. Speed up the progress again. and then it's done. So after this is done, then you can unplug everything, wait 30 seconds and then plug everything back on. So disconnect the power cable and the Nand X. And what we didn't discuss yet is the post bit jumpers. On the CR4 XL, as I have it installed at this moment, it's on 0 on the default, 0 ohms. As you can see, it's already glitching twice, 3 times, 4 times. For a CR4 XL, this is already way too much, way too many times glitching. So probably my settings, my dip switches or my post bit jumper is not correct. So I'm gonna try to just test out something. I'm turning it off right now, and I'm gonna switch the plastic jumper, the post bit jumper. I'm gonna switch it to 10 ohms. It's all the way to the left. Can be tricky this, so be careful that you don't bend anything. Now the post bit jumper is on 10 ohms. And we're gonna try to glitch. Starting it. And it's instant booting. So that's great. This made a lot of difference, only the 10 ohms. It's still on dip switch 3, but we just changed the post bit jumper. Let's try that again. I turn the console off and turn it back on. And what do you know? In 2 glitches, it's booting.